Hello out there. I know it's been a while since I've made a video that wasn't part of the Vampire the Masquerade YouTube experience, which you should be a part of if you're uh, not already a member of. It's a phenomenal experience and you should definitely join it. And if you want to, either leave comments below or ask around. I'm sure there are numerous people in the brigade who I think are part of it, or can put you in touch with people who are part of it. But enough of a plug of that. Today's video is an opinion bit on I've had numerous people come up to me, friends, and ask how do I get into gaming, or I've had friends who are trying to get players for games and they're asking how should they introduce people into it, or they know people who are interested, various and sundry things like that. And they'll ask me these questions, and frankly, I'm always a little bit shocked when I'm asked these questions, and it's no fault of the people asking me. I mean, you see some of these rule books for Eclipse Phase or Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder. Some people find these games and their extensive rule books to be rather intimidating. They panic. They're like, I don't know how to teach these people, or the people who are trying to come in. They want to join the hobby, but they have absolutely no idea how to play, what to do. They'll also see the buy-in cost for some of these books, and they'll panic. And I've always just been shocked when this happens, because to me, the easiest way to get into something, to join a hobby, to learn, is to honestly just dive head first right in. And so this is kind of an answer to the questions that some people have been asking me, and to the friends who are setting up games. And I thought I'd share it on YouTube, if there's anyone out there who has the same issue. So I mean, currently now, getting people into the game, into the hobby, is far easier than people would, like to think at some points. Far easier than it's been in a very long time. And that is due to the the just massive success of games like Skyrim. Skyrim, I cannot tell you how many people I, sat down at a table with, and they're like, I'd like to learn how to play. And, I ask them, what's your experience? Kind of, trying to figure out what they kind of want to play, to bring them in. And they'll tell me, I played a lot of Skyrim, or I played WoW, or the new Final Fantasy game, or whatever. But primarily it's Skyrim. And honestly, the step from Skyrim into tabletop gaming, particularly Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, whatever your preference is so small that getting these people into the hobby is just a mere matter of re-explaining the rules in the terms that they'll understand them in. And so that's what I honestly feel is the most important part. If someone says they want to play a game, sit down and play with them. Don't ease them into gaming through various other methods. If they sit down and they say they want to play a tabletop game, if they want to play Vampire, if they want to play Eclipse Phase, it doesn't matter if these games are what you consider to be the hardest games to get into. Because the person has shown interest in that game, then let them be the judge of if it's too difficult for them. If you understand how to play the game, run it. Even if you only have a only basic working knowledge of the system, run the game for them. Or put them in touch with someone who will run the game, just so that they can get into it, even if it is a super hard game. Because if they've put their mind to it, then they've wanted to play that game. The only way to get them to really join other games and to expand their knowledge is if their first experience was enjoyable. Even if the game is brutal and hard, if they wanted to sit down and play sci-fi, they're probably not going to be content playing, World of Darkness or Pathfinder. If they wanted to play fantasy, they probably won't be happy playing in your Cyberpunk game. Or if, they're really, really wanting to play Vampire the Masquerade, they, chances are, will not enjoy playing those other games at first. And it is only because there was something that sparked them to jump from point A into said game. And to put them in anywhere else, you're lowering the chance that they'll then want to stay in the hobby and expand and join the community. So that's what I say first. And doing that also seems intimidating. You sit down and you're like, I have to explain this whole new system to this person. We then have to go through character creation and then explaining how the game works. And this is another step that I've seen, many friends mess up on when they're trying to teach someone. They'll focus on one aspect more than the other, or, something just goes wrong in this step so often. And my advice in resolving that matter is, when it comes to getting them in the game, my personal philosophy, now this is my personal philosophy, have them make a character. You sit there and walk them through making a character, but you have them make their own character. The reason for this is, when they sit down to play this game, yet again, whatever got them to jump into gaming, that there was some inspiration that they wanted to use, something that they wanted to grasp onto. Let them bring that in. If you hand them a pre-made character, they're automatically going to be disconnected in some fashion, because what if that character isn't what they really wanted to play? If they are jumping from being a mage in Skyrim and you hand them a fighter in D&D, they probably jumped in wanting to play some sort of spellcaster. And if they're not, yet again, you're lowering that chance that they'll join the hobby in the end. So that's why I say that you walk them through it. And, keep it simple, though. Don't, pull out all, 15 source books that you have along with the core book to build this character, unless you absolutely have to. If they say they want to be some monstrous, minotaur four-armed abomination that really has no place in any standard game, it's fine. Let them run a one-shot. They don't have to keep this character. But if you let them do that, that's what, yet again, higher chance. And then you only pull the books that you need to. And depending on what you're playing, you're going to want to slim down their choices for them. Not necessarily to, rein them in, but to remove a lot of those extraneous choices that they don't need. If it's 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, pick some of the better powers for what they're trying to do. And, let them pick from that list. If it's 3-5, let them pick from a handful of feats that you already know work well for their character. This isn't to, yet again, to hamper what they want to do. It's to alleviate the stress. When you look at, if you're new and you look at that, 3 pages of feats, that list that's in, all the D&D books, and you see that list and you're new, you have no idea what's good. You have no idea what will work well. You have no idea what will really help make your character what you want to do, but also make them survivable. So, that's what you do. And, and that final major hurdle that so many people mess up on is when it comes to explaining the rules. The easiest way to explain the rules to someone is to explain it to them as you play. Explain the very basic mechanic. I'll say you need to make a check. You roll these dice. You compare it to X. If it's a percentile game, if it's under this, just tell me success or not. If it's, a target number game, tell me your total and I'll tell you if you hit your target number. It's as simple as that. And as things come up, then explain it to them. They won't be mad if you don't explain flanking to them, at the prime point, unless that's a character feature, which obviously you should. You should explain that as soon as they're doing that. that they need to be flanking. But the wizard doesn't need to understand flanking in the first round of combat. He doesn't need to understand flanking until it's about to happen to them. Or, they don't need to understand attacks of opportunity necessarily unless, there's a chance for them to use it or it's a danger to them. So that way you feed the rules into the person without ever having to, sit there for 15 minutes and explain, how the D20, all the D20 features and, how combat works and everything. You don't need to even explain combat until you are in combat. To explain it beforehand will just, go in one ear and out the other because it's not relevant at that point. You need to explain the rules only as they're relevant. That way the person can see it and it will stick for them. They'll be like, okay, this does this. This is what this means. Attack of opportunity means jack shit to a person unless they see an attack of opportunity occurring or, it's about to occur if they make X choice. So, and, honestly, that's it. There's no trick of, easing them into it or explaining them or coercing or, anything like that. All you have to do is let them play what they wanted. They came to the hobby for a reason. They wanted to try it for a reason. Let them play what they want. And as a side note, if you are running the game, make them feel badass. Like, if you want someone to join the hobby, make them feel good about it. Don't, this is the one time that, fudging the dice is fine. This is the prime point where you need to put a fun time over the rules. Because, they need to see that the game can be fun at, in the end. So that's really all I've got to say about, trying to bring someone into the hobby. At least in that viewpoint. If you're running a game and bring people in, there's, it's a whole new video of what to do to run a game for someone new to the hobby. But when it comes, if a friend comes up to you and is like, hey, I'd like to get into gaming, how can I do that? Or, if you're trying to find players and your base of people is people who play Skyrim, that's a fine base of players. Will they play exactly, if you're looking for that hardcore role playing, will they necessarily do that right off the bat? Maybe, maybe not. But with a background in something similar, then when they get into the, when they start gaming, things will become familiar. They'll understand combat. They'll understand imagery. You can explain all these things, and especially if they're coming from something like a Bethesda game, they'll understand that entire action consequences system for the most part. You still may end up with the guy who, slaughters the peasant for his hat, but sometimes that can't be avoided with someone playing for their first time. And at that point, you should punish them. But yet again, running a game for new players is a whole nother video. This is mainly just to address, if you've got a friend who comes up to you, or you're trying to find a group of people, and you want to introduce people to the hobby, this is the best way to do it. So, until my next video, which will hopefully not be another year gap. Good night.